Hello, and thank you for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Esther Mopariola. Today on the program, United States, UK, France, and Ecowas congratulate Tinubu for election victory, sue for peace and pledge partnership as Nigeria's voter turnout drops to 26.70%. Elder statesman Tanko Yakasai wants Tinubu to form an all-inclusive government, equitable government, and later on the show, former Accountant General's missing statement stalls trial in alleged 109 billion naira fraud. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adekunle Yusuf. Journalist Hangout starts now. Now, the 2023 presidential election was an exercise that attracted international attention, and so is the outcome. All the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, has congratulated the president-elect, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for emerging victorious in the election. A chairman of the ECOWAS authority, Umaru Sissoko Embalo, appealed to politicians in the country to promote peace and use the constitutional means to address any grievances. Now, countries like the United Kingdom, United States, and France have also congratulated the president-elect. Meanwhile, reports show that the voter turnout for this year's presidential and National Assembly elections drops to about 26.70%, despite a steady rise in the number of registered voters in the country since 1999. BK, let me begin with you on this matter. What's your opinion, first off, on the recent appeal by the international community to political leaders now in the just concluded elections to promote peace and, of course, use constitutional means to address any grievances? Let's start with that.
Yes, I think it makes sense to use constitutional means to ventilate your disagreement, your anger about how the election went. Inciting our people to violence is not what we want to see at this time, because the people who incite our people to violence, they are usually not the victims of the violence. They sit in their homes and try to encourage young people to take to the streets to put their lives in danger while they are ensconced in their own homes along with their children, some of them just lounging and waiting to hear negative stories. So the world does not want to see Nigeria slip into violence, and that is why they are saying, look, use constitutional means to show your anger, show your disagreement with the outcome of the election. There is no need to resort to violence. The world does not want to see Nigeria slip into war because it will be disastrous. We are a big nation in terms of our population, and if we should have any war break out on our land, and the refugee problem, our neighbors cannot cope with the refugee problem that will result from war in our country. So that's why everybody is terrified of the prospect of war, breaking out in Nigeria, because where would people go? And in all wars, as Delegua said, those who die are those who do not deserve to die. The people who beat the drums of war, they hardly die. The people who started the war, the civil war in Nigeria, how many of them died? Yet in that war, we lost more than 1 million people.
True.
And so this is the reason the world continues to appeal to our political leaders to allow peace to reign, to use constitutional means to pursue their, to resolve their differences and to get their message across. And the message is, we disagree with the way this election went.
But
you have to do that through constitutional means.
Right. Now, Adekunle, how do you think this appeal will impact the political climate in the coming weeks or months?
Well, it is a good thing for global leaders, especially respected voices from across the world, to appeal to our politicians, because the political class in Nigeria, they are the kind of people that you don't want to say terrible things about.
Right.
They are always very terrible in terms of putting their interest first. They don't care about any other interest. They only care. They are always desperate. They are always insistent on winning. And many of them are not democrats in the true sense of that word. So they just find themselves playing, playing the game of politics. But the truth is, it is okay. I want a situation whereby some of these leaders, if not all of them, will heed this clarion call. That's the right thing to do. If you watch recent election in Kenya, it was more, volatile in terms of the atmosphere. Everything, the country was divided. Everybody thought there would be war. And when you look at the dynamics, it was even higher than what we had in Nigeria. And you saw an incumbent president going back to make peace with his long estranged foe and turning against his deputy. Now, like 3 enemies, 2 became, 2 who used to be bosom friends became enemies. Then we used to want Odinga, join it. But at the end of the day, the election was won and lost. And one thing that I would expect Nigeria to do is to follow that example, let know of everything. The Supreme Court there, everything. Do you know what happened? The president, the outgoing president, was able to unite the loser and the winner. The winner, who happened to be his former deputy friend, became his enemy. Then Odinga, who used to be a former prime minister, and long-time foe of the president, they became friends close to the election. And before you know it, but he was able to bring the two together at a public, function. And in the presence of, cameras, all Kenyans watching, they were able to shake hands. Each of them made peace and made commitment that Kenya is bigger than each and every one of them. Just like in Nigeria, this country is bigger than President Muhammadu Buhari, is bigger than Atiku, is bigger than anyone. So now election has come and gone. The ultimate thing is we have our country intact. There is no violence. Everybody is happy. And if there are people that are not happy based on the results, the avenue is there. The law has been so good enough to create avenue for you to vent your grievances. Please go to the courts. If you don't believe the results are what should be, the court will help you to do justice to your case. That's the beauty of our democracy.
Right, well said. But, BKO, with what Adekunle has pointed out, definitely he made reference to what the Kenya elections and how things have panned out. But, what other lessons can we learn from other countries that have faced situations like this in terms of promoting peace and stability after an election?
The one thing that I see clearly is that the West, yes, they criticize us when we don't get things wrong, things right. But they also know that no system is perfect.
Right.
There is no election that is perfect. Till tomorrow, Donald Trump still insists that he won the last election and that the election was compromised. So when technology, because the main issue that is pushing people to say this last election was compromised was the fact that INEC did not upload results real time on the IRF portal. But INEC has complained that the system kept freezing on the day. This same IRF portal was used for off-season elections, and very successful. People were able to see results online in real time. But an off-season election cannot be compared to a general election like this one, where we had so many millions of people taking part, voting, and since 1999, people register for the election represents the highest since 1999. You know, yes, on election day, the figures didn't actually match the zeal and enthusiasm with which our people registered for the election. Of course, many factors could be responsible for that, including the cash crunch. Yes, people were going through all kinds of agonies. And when people are not happy like that, to go and exercise their
franchise.
Yes, will not even be a consideration for so many of our people. So that's that. The point that I'm making is, when you look at Obamacare, for example, their own portal to faced this kind of problem. People couldn't log in. People are disappointed. In fact, Republicans continually use that to attack the government. So, and the contractors did a good job, but government didn't really put this thing to test before the website went online. So with technology, problems are common. It doesn't mean that, you can actually buy a car and in test running it, you discover that it has a problem. Look at how many units of Toyota cars had to be returned because of problems that they did not know at the beginning were present in those vehicles. They had to recall thousands of those cars. So, yes, we had people are right to say no. INEC should have uploaded the results, yes, on the portal in real time, right, while the election. But if it gets hacked or if there are problems, definitely you do not expect INEC to not take steps that will ensure that the election is saved. The most important thing is, are those figures the same figures that emanated from the polling units?
Right.
Because it's actually the end product that you still upload. So if the figures match what emanated from the polling units, then no one can say that this thing, that the election was rigged. But if the figures that emanated from the polling units were tampered with, then you cannot argue that the election was not rigged.
You know, but apologies for holding your thoughts there, but if I remember closely, the INEC chairman said that the INEC is ready to conduct the elections, and also from the polling units, results will be uploaded from the polling units to the portal on the election day. So when this happened, people, residents, citizens were not too pleased about how the arrangements was done, and so the outcome seemed as though it wasn't transparent. So, but
the transparency of an election,
right,
is manifested in different ways. Let me tell you, the main kernel of transparency of this election is the BVAS machines, because in the past we used to have multiple thumb printing and all that. The BVAS machine ensures that it is you and no one else that can vote captures your facials and your other biometric elements. You cannot vote if you are not the owner of that card. In the past, they used to simply write results. And yes, they just write results, and you see 1 million, 1 point something million. When a lot of those numbers are not real. This election has shown it. A lot of those numbers. Even me, that I was saying, look, let's expect the votes that will come from some places. I saw that in some of those places, just 250, because they could not bypass the beavers. The law says you must use the beavers. You can't bypass it the way they were bypassing a card reader. So that beavers is the single most important tool for ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. But our people have also found a way to rig elections without actually going to the polling unit to exercise their franchise. When people attack polling centers and they suppress votes from coming from that polling center, it is rigging. INEC says if there is if violence occurs anywhere, then the result will be cancelled. There are politicians who deliberately go to where their opponents are strong to cause violence. And if you see the number of places where ballots were cancelled in this election, you see clearly the influence of violence in the entire process. So the point that I'm making, uploading, what is voting? The most important thing is whether those numbers were the same.
Tallied.
Yes, whether it tallied with what occurred at the polling centers, which were signed by the agents of the respective parties. That is the most important thing. That's the most important thing. So, but if they are saying that, oh, there were difficulties and all that, how then do people use it? There was also even the threat of hacking. There was also the threat of hacking. Even in America, they said the Obamacare website was hacked. And we don't even have in terms of competence. So
no technology is foolproof from what you're trying to tell me?
No one. That's why I used the Obamacare
as an
example. No one can say that it didn't happen in the UK. In the US, it was a big embarrassment. People couldn't log in. People spent hours, yet they could not log in. And this was not what the government promised. The government also promised that, look, you'll be able to subscribe to the Obamacare and all that. But it didn't happen. So in our election, from the first few hours of that election, there were difficulties. And what INEC officials are saying was that this thing that had worked perfectly during the off-season elections, suddenly on election day, was difficult for people to access. So it's not, even now they've accessed more than 73% of the results. So people can check and see whether it matches what transpired at the polling centers.
Right.
So even the West and other people, they will know that there is no election that is perfect.
Indeed. Now let's look at the issue of voter turnout. Adekunle, this year's election witnessed a significant drop of about 26.07%, despite, we understand, a steady rise of voters since 1999. But let's have your thoughts on first the factors you think contributed to this drop in the number of voters we witnessed in this year's elections.
Honestly, I was shocked when I saw that in terms of voter turnout, that we dropped. But don't forget that there were a lot of crises, mostly self-inflicted injuries, as we approach, as we approach the elections. Because I saw it as madness, some of the things that happened, that we don't need some of these things. Okay, how do you have serious fuel scarcity at a time when election is coming? Then added to that was this new Naira
design
scarcity. Do you know up to today, Nigerians are still suffering. If you go to all the banks anywhere, the crowd you see, the faces, of Nigerians, you will see gloom, you will see despondency, desperation, hunger, unhappiness. Because some people will tell you they have not eaten for days. And they are not poor. They don't have access to their money. And some of them are not the type that can do transfers. Okay, let me transfer. So some of these crises may have contributed. I haven't seen anybody who has done studies to come up with figures or statistics, but I believe these things contributed. Okay, how do you expect somebody who is hungry, who has not eaten, to come and queue to vote? They won't answer you. You get my point?
Right.
That may have contributed. Because this year, I expected, with the level of enthusiasm, with the youth,
participation,
believe me,
involvement,
I was expecting a big figure.
Turnout,
yes,
right.
But we dropped, and we didn't just drop small, we dropped big. So that was why I said some self-inflicted crises may have contributed. Like in 2015, the effort to say, hey, Jonathan must go, we don't want this clueless, this and that. What happened? We had 43% of eligible, registered voters coming out to vote. The one after that, I think 2019, I think it was about 35% of those who registered.
Voters,
Now, this year, Nigeria added nothing less than 10 million extra, eligible voters. But when it came to on the election day, what happened? Many of them probably didn't come out, maybe because they were not happy with the policies of the federal government. Many of them, because of that, unable to eat, unable to have access to their money. So out of that anger, what do I need to vote for?
Some even came out and went back in anger because materials didn't come on time.
Logistical
then
challenges.
We can discuss logistics and others, but I expected that some other crises must have played a
Pico, your final thoughts on this matter before we quickly go on a break.
Yes, what influences turnout in there are many factors that influence high turnout on election day. Parties need to mobilize their volunteers to do this. Most people they work hard, they register, but on election day, they are gripped by a certain level of laziness.
Right.
And they don't want to come out. So it's the volunteers. In America, they call them the get out the vote. Get out the vote volunteers. Parties hire them. They will go and be knocking on doors and get people to come out. It is the party that is the most efficient at it that usually win elections. Generally elections is difficult to have even 50% turnout for elections. In popular democracy anywhere, it's extremely difficult to even achieve half of the number of registered voters. So that problem is there, that people will just, on election day, they don't want to go out, they want to be watching TV and hear the results. But when parties mobilize their volunteers and work hard at mobilizing people and getting people to come out, the numbers will go up. Then the issue of the youth, the enthusiasm of the youth, is not in every part of Nigeria.
Right.
In Lagos,
the South,
you can see it reflected. The turnout was
about 1 million.
Was higher. Yes,
no, it was higher.
Yes, it was higher compared to past elections.
Yeah.
So it reflected even in the Osun elections, the governorship election in Osun, a lot of the youth. Even when the youth were protesting over NSAS here, we didn't have
it in the north as well,
yes,
so
we
that
didn't have
contributed as well.
the same level of protest.
Yeah.
Maybe police do not molest people in the north the way they do in the south. So these things
contributed.
Yes, but you still find in Kano that they recorded the highest.
Right.
That is, people know that is their tradition. They don't take politics lightly.
That's a fine place to leave this discussion. Let's quickly go on a very quick break. You're still on to Journalist Hangout. We'll have more in just a moment. Stay with us.
Take to run a mega city. Before a pilot earns his wings, he spends hundreds of hours in training, A neurosurgeon needs 16 years before earning his title. So why would you leave running a city of 20 million people to inexperienced hands? Lagos is Africa's fourth largest economy, the continent's second largest megacity. Would you hand over this great state to just anyone? Someone without the necessary experience to move Lagos forward? It takes decades of experience to run this Lagos. 20 years of building, 20 years of delivering, 20 years of service. Sanwo for Eko, Eko for Sanwo.
The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) will conduct the 2023 general election using the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System (BVAS). On election day, the BVAS equipment will be used to accredit voters by be verified and authenticated before they are allowed to vote. Any intending voter whose fingerprint or facial photograph is not verified by the BVAS equipment will not be able to vote. With this, one man, one woman, one vote is assured. As no one can engage in multiple voting, neither can anyone use the voter cards of another person to vote. After polling, the BVAS equipment will also be used to transmit election results electronically from polling units to the INEC result viewing portal for everyone to see. BVAS will eliminate multiple voting, identity theft, or impersonation. The BVAS will guarantee one man, one woman, one vote. INEC, making your vote count, consolidating our democracy.
This message is brought to you by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and the Center for Democracy and Development (CDD), with support from the Osiwa Africa Foundation.
The National Homegrown School Feeding Program has 9,990,862 pupils that are being fed in 36 states and the FCT. It has 128,531 cooks employed from the local communities. It has 96 aggregators enrolled to supply cooks with protein used in feeding the pupils. It has local farmers that were engaged to supply locally grown food.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
What is really happening in Akamata Market? It seems these people don't want the election to hold.
I hope you're broadcasting to the world must hear.
No. Is that how you people share sensitive news like that without verifying it? If I may ask, which news platform published the news?
Jojo sent it though.
Jojo? Is that not the same Jojo that posted a fake election result the last time that almost caused a riot?
You know they forget something.
No. In this election season and after, one must be very careful. Or do you want to set the country on fire?
Haba.
Fake news is a threat to a free and fair election and to peace and security. So, before you share any news, check to be sure the source is credible. Check if there are supporting credible sources. Read beyond the headlines. Check the author. Check the date. Check your biases. Ask an expert or send to a fact-checking organization for confirmation. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government.
Now, this year's presidential election has been concluded and a winner has emerged. So what is next is the task of nation building. As such, an elder statesman, Tanko Yakasai, has called on the president-elect, Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress, to run an all-inclusive government. Now, the non-Nigerian who congratulated Tinubu for the victory commended the Independent National Electoral Commission for a job well done. BKO, indeed, the elder statesman has called on the president-elect to run an all-inclusive government. But first off, how important do you think this is for the government to be representative of all groups, religions, and regions in the country. How important this is?
It is extremely important. And on the day the Circular of Return was presented to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I talked about the first steps that I needed to take. The first appointments that the president-elect makes will give people a hint of what is to come. We can't have a situation in which appointments will appear to tilt towards a region. No, we are one people, we are one country.
Right.
You know? Just like the Bishop Desmond Tutu said in describing South Africa, he said, we are the rainbow people of God. You know, they call them rainbow people. He now said, we are the rainbow people of God because we are God's creations. It pleased God to put us here as Nigerians. So it makes sense that in making appointments, let it be equitable. Let it be equitable so that it doesn't breed unnecessary bad blood. Whether it is in the armed forces or not, there are capable Nigerians who can play all those roles. Brilliance, competence, capacity is not limited to any part of Nigeria.
Right.
That is a fact. So you can get people who can get the job done for you in a multilingual, multi-ethnic society like ours by simply taking your time and headhunting the right people, not thinking about who has what I wanted to say, who gave me the
sentiments,
the most votes. And you won't say, oh, because in the southeast you barely got a head start, that they should not be represented. No. It is the same country that we are talking about. You are not going to think about how they voted for you. As the president, you become everybody's father. And no good father makes it clear to his children that this is the preferred person. You understand? You hide it. You are a mother, you must hide it. The moment you show it, so much that you won't be able to handle.
Yes, exactly.
Sibling rivalry, that's where it begins.
True.
No sibling rivalry that is bloody, it is actually parents who cause it. So you have to be equitable. That's what the old man is saying. The old man has so much wisdom. He knows that right now we are extremely divided. We are a fractured nation. Except we are fooling ourselves. And some of these complaints are very legit. They are legit. They have to be addressed. That way, Nigerians will see themselves as one people, one united people. You know? There's nothing wrong. He also suggests that we should start the development, go back to the development plans. I'm sure the president-elect has his own plans. But in my view, we can even do what the Americans do. The Americans, if Konleshi is of the Republican Party, and I am Democrat, I've never been Democrat all my life, and I am Democrat. I'm the president. I'm the president. You know, I'm referring to the Americans now. You know, you are proudly Republican, just like me. You know, now I won't say because I'm a Republican, I'm a Democratic president,
right?
And I see this person is of the Democratic Party, but he's one of the most brilliant economists in our country. I will headhunt him. They do that a lot.
They
do that a lot. It is their country. They want the best for their country. It's not in all cases that you start looking at, a political party. There's no, religion. No. Get the best. The Nigeria needs to be fixed. Wherever you can find the best people to fix our country, go get them. And it must not, we have federal character principle. We must not do anything that suggests that the federal character principle exists only on paper.
Right.
You understand? If people can see those signs from the beginning, especially when it comes to the people leading our security apparatchik as a country, you see that the attitude even towards the president, will kind of change because they will see that, oh, this person is trying to carry everybody along.
All right, let's take this call from Zamfara State. I understand we have Ibrahim online. Ibrahim, if you're on, quickly go ahead with your contribution.
It's Habib online, not Ibrahim.
Yes, good evening. Habib, we can hear you. Okay, Habib, apologies. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Babajide, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I always enjoy listening to you, listening to all your analysis every day. I'm one of your fans. Thank you so much for every analysis.
Thanks.
And again, the contribution I want to make is on the issue of this IRF and the drama that Tilo Malaye put through in the Collation Center, National Circulation Center. What really amused me is on this issue is, since the inception of these beavers in Anambra, Ekiti, and Osun, there is no party that calls for the IRF to be displayed before the election, or the returning officer denounced the governor-elect in those states. What is the difference in the national body? Tinubu won 12 states. Atiku won 12 states. Obi won 11 states plus FCT, making 12 also. All Tinubu did was he is second to all of them. Are you telling us that, okay, everywhere PDP won is rigged, everywhere Obi won is rigged, and also everywhere Tinubu won is rigged? Because I don't really understand this situation at all. What are you fighting for? Is the IRF is already there, but even though I can admit it, because at my own polling unit in Kaduna, instead of my polling unit results, it was a polling unit from Kano, which I noticed. That's the mistake that maybe the IRF is giving and stuff like that.
Okay.
But apart from this election is one of the best elections I've ever seen.
All right, thank you so much, Habib. Apologies, we can't continue further, but I appreciate your contributions on the show. So, Adekunle, let me get your thoughts on the same issue. You know, BKO rightly said that, you know, an inclusive government is important for a country like Nigeria, knowing the diversity of our nation. But how can we balance, or balance the need of merit-based appointments? Now, looking at this inclusive government, how can we balance it too? Merit-based as against representation in government, knowing our diversity. How we ensure that there's a balance between these two?
Well, I saw you as an antecedent, and that is not hidden from the public. So people know what he can do. They know he's a man that goes for merit. But the truth is, merit does not reside in only one section of the country.
Right.
Merit does not reside in only one tribe. Merit does not reside in only one religion. Your job is to find them wherever they are. And I believe he can do that. He said this is his lifelong ambition. Do you know the meaning of that statement? He must have been preparing many years for this day. And the time has come. So, Jide mentioned certain things about the first appointment. When Buhari came at that time, you know what happened. Right from his first appointments, he was losing his core loyalists, core fans.
Yes.
Right from his first few appointments. And when you see, even when we raised questions,
to percentage.
when we raised questions, they were abusing us that yes, those is comfortable working. That's not what the Constitution says. Those are the ones he knows, and those are the ones he's comfortable. At the end of the day, what happened? You came, you met the problems on the ground, and you came and worsened the problems. When all the service chiefs coming from social side and all that, were they able to secure the country? They made a mess of the insecurity problems they met on the ground. So that is it. Then the president himself will say, yes, somebody who gave me less than 5% cannot be compared with somebody who gave me 95%. Those are not everybody. Ashwaju is no longer the president of APC. He's no longer he still retains his membership of APC. He's the president of PDP. He's the president of Labour Party.
He's national leader of APC. He's now national leader of Nigeria.
So it's everybody, including those who don't like politics.
Who didn't vote for him.
It's those who voted for him, those who like him, those who dislike him, and the truth is that
mocking him.
I've seen some things, except a few guys there who love to gloat about this victory. No, you don't. The work at hand is enormous. You get my point?
Right.
All the problems, created for Nigeria during long years of military rule, all the problems the PDP years, created, and all the problems worsened totally by 8 years of Buhari. All will be on his head, and that's enormous. Nigerians need a leader that can govern not like the ones they know, that can show that governance in Nigeria can really serve the end. I mean, what the people want, that can solve problems, not propaganda, lying, not somebody who is aloof from the pains of the masses, somebody who doesn't know that Nigerians are suffering, and all those things. The problems now, problems of hunger, problems of, unemployment, poverty, all those ones are there. But the systemic problems, and we must not, deceive ourselves. There is no one man that can solve all the problems. But the major ones that can ease the tension, that can ease the pain, that can bring back prosperity, that can make life more abundant for the Nigerians. Those are the things that you would do.
All right, and that's a fine place to leave this discussion. Let's quickly go on a quick break. You're still on to Journalist Hangout. We'll have more in just a moment. Stay with us.
My sister, do you know that winning an election is not only about getting the majority vote? For that your candidate to be declared winner of the election, he or she must secure 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all states plus the FCT to be president, and 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all local governments of a state to be governor. This is constitutional, and every presidential candidate has had to pass this threshold. Even governors have had to make this mark to get elected in their states. We live in one country with different languages, religions, and ethnic groups. This is why it is not enough to have only northern votes, or southern votes, or eastern votes, or western votes. The only way to get elected as president or governor is by gaining enough support across the country and states. Let us make sure that we know now so that we don't cause an issue tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
My name is Mary Jolie and I am from Ogun State, but I'm based in Lagos. I've just recently taken a trip to Ibadan, and in returning I decided to take the train. So I said, I'm not so sure, but I'm willing to try.
We thank God that the commencement of this present administration, railway was at a very, very low ebb. And when they came, they took the bull by the horn.
And I'm really happy that I tried. This was probably the most seamless journey I've had since I've been in Nigeria. For example, the train left on time. I was not expecting it to leave on time. 8 a.m., we were on the move. I think it's an amazing alternative to being on the road, especially with just the traffic. It's quite intense, there's insecurity, and it would be amazing to see the government invest a bit more into more trains going into other cities and states. It would really free up the congestion that takes place on the road and leisure type of experience within Nigeria.
Me, I'm not afraid of that man. Me too. What can you really do? I hope you people are discussing about paying me my rent.
Oga landlord, calm down. We are discussing about the upcoming elections.
Nonsense. Don't tell me to calm down. Your mates are at the Akamata Community Square selling their votes for 5,000 naira. but you are here doing what I don't know.
Oga landlord, do you know that 5,000 naira spread over the next 4 years is just 4 naira per day? Is this what we should sell our votes for? God forbid.
Oga landlord, wise up. We must vote in the right people this time, instead of selling our votes to people who have nothing good to offer our community.
That one is your business. You ladies better go and collect yours, if that will help you gather my rent at the end of the month. Do not listen to people like this landlord. Election is not a business venture. It is your civic duty to your country to help elect the right leaders who will create a better life for you and a great future for your children. Do not sell your future. Do not sell your vote. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the MacArthur.
You're still on to Journalist Hangout, and we're staying with the calls by the elder statesman Tanko Yakasai that the president-elect runs an all-inclusive government. So, BKO, let's look at this issue now. Are we really talking about running an all-inclusive government? Are we really practicing the tenets which describes or which provided that we should adopt the principle of a federal character? Are we really adopting that principle?
Well, we do it when it is convenient for us. You know, the Nigerian president is so powerful that sometimes he just makes us demand, this is what I want to do, and no one can get him to change. The federal character commission is there, but we breach it again and again. Many people are wondering whether we even have federal character principle. Because, look, it is unconstitutional to make some of the appointments that we are making. Because the federal character thing is enshrined in the Constitution. But in making appointments, sometimes we are so insensitive that we do not care what other people say. And that is why this Baba, is saying, look, it's important to be equitable. Get everyone along. This is our government. We must make sure that the government doesn't fail. But the government itself has to take steps, confidence-building steps that will make people feel like, yes, this government is for everyone. It is not for only PC people. There are still many places where you can reward. There are many board appointments where you can reward members of your party, but in critical appointments, you must follow the federal character principle. You must spread your appointments across all the regions, the nationalities of our country. That way, everybody will know that, yes, this is a government for all of us.
Indeed, a government for everyone. So, but Adekunle, what specific policies or programs do you think an all-inclusive government should prioritize in order to address the issues of the socio-economic challenges being faced in the country today?
Poverty is all over Nigeria.
Right.
Any policy you can come up with that can address poverty in every part of Nigeria, what can be more inclusive than that? Education is a problem more in the north than in the south. It's a problem across our country because when you look at the enrollment, but it's worse in the north. If you go back to the history of the US, you will know the north, south, and unlike here, the north was more advanced than the south. But at the end of the day, they carried the south along, and the US is better for it. We can do the same thing in Nigeria. Believe me, the problem of Al-Majiri, the problem of Boko Haram, the problem of Bantry, education alone can solve them. Because I don't know how anybody can come here and be recruiting, even jobless graduates, let's put them at, to say come and join because of one Allah, one Jesus, one man. Nobody will answer them. Because they know the true Allah doesn't believe in such things. The true Jesus doesn't believe in such things. Violence. It's not possible. So when we solve these problems through education, we solve problems of poverty, many things will calm down. Because across Nigeria, hunger, poverty doesn't respect Hausa people and say they dislike Yoruba people or dislike Igbo people. No, it's a problem that afflicts everybody. It doesn't talk about Muslims, it doesn't talk about Christians, it talks about everybody. So these are just major issues. When we talk road construction, well, you can do whatever. There is no way that aspect can be as more, inclusive as when you handle education, you handle health, you handle poverty. Everybody will benefit, especially if these are policies that really, make impact.
Right.
You get my point? So those things are extremely necessary. For now, any government, the president-elect, those are the areas you need to focus. The tension has to come down. Then insecurity.
Right.
We must do everything possible to defeat the criminals. This outgoing administration, and they condemn bandits, condemn this, they this. No. This incoming government should not look into anybody's face.
Right.
The moment you break our law, the moment you commit crime, go for it.
And that's a fine place to leave it. Thank you very much, Adekunle Yusuf, and of course my guest in the studio, BKO Babajide Kolade Otitoju. We appreciate your insights on the program this evening. And that's it on today's episode of Journalist Hangout. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch a repeat broadcast of it tonight at 11, and join us again as well on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Esther Makwariola. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.